Hello and welcome to Hello, This is the Doomed Show. I am Richard.
I am Brad.
And welcome to episode 36 of the Doomed Show. Man, we are talking about a couple of outsider frickin' misfit ass movies. I guess GGTMC would call these deep cuts.
Deep cuts.
Deep cuts of the Italian horror variety. First up will be Damned in Venice, aka Nero Veneziano from 1978.
Excellent.
And we'll follow it up with A Whisper in the Dark from 1976, the greatest year that I was born in.
The best.
There's other years I was born in, but 76 is the best.
We covered a film that was released the year I was born. What film was it?
Oh man.
Actually, we covered two that were released the year I was born that I can think of. I will accept either one as a correct answer.
Is Tourist Trap one?
Tourist Trap is one.
What was the other one?
Screams of a Winter Night.
Oh shit.
Winter's Night. I can't remember how. I always get the S's confused. Good call, Tourist Trap.
Took me a minute there.
Night.
You know why Tourist Trap is so hard to place? Because
why?
It's so ahead of its time.
Mm-hmm.
Like Tourist Trap feels like mid-80s. It does not feel like the year it came out. Yeah. Exactly.
I was actually listening to a podcast the other day, and I can't remember which one it was, but they have a little segment of movies you've never heard of that you need to see, and Tourist Trap was one of them. I'm like, oh, I know Tourist Trap.
I know it well.
I know it from my youth.
So yeah, we're gonna start with Damned in Venice. This is a very, very, very dark movie. Holy shit. This is from director Ugo Liberatore. He actually didn't direct a whole lot, but he wrote something important. He wrote Hellbenders.
Really?
Yes, the spaghetti western by Sergio Corbucci, one of the infamous spaghetti depressterns.
I like the Hellbenders, yeah.
Hellbenders is good.
Joseph Cotton.
And he also wrote another movie that came up again. We should probably cover this movie sometime. The Witch in Love, La Strega in Amore. With Richard Johnson that we talked about, I think.
Oh yeah. That's a good movie.
We brought that up before. I think we should just fucking cover that movie. It's pretty weird.
We should. Yeah, it's odd.
But this, the plot synopsis on IMDb could not be any more concise. A blind boy receives a vision that warn him of the birth of the Antichrist. It's concise. It's just not grammatically correct.
Wow.
A blind boy receives a vision that warns him of the birth of the Christ Antis.
Now that you put it that way, yeah.
Yeah, I'll correct him. I'll have a talk to him. Yes, this movie is indeed about that. Mark, played by Renato Sestier, and his sister Christine, she's played by Rena Niehaus. Niehaus. She and he are totally orphans because they're almost orphans They're totally almost orphans because their parents died in some horrible accident, and they're living with their grandmother in Venice. Apparently Venice is the most terrible, horrific place on earth. And this movie proves it. And a priest, played by Jose Quaglio, Father Stephanie, Stephanie. Father Stefani is his name. He is trying to encourage Mark and Christine to go off to live with their aunt and uncle and take over a boarding house. I think Christine's supposed to be an adult, she's like 18, and Mark is like 15 or something like that. He's blind. He's been blind for 3 years, so he hasn't been blind his whole life or anything. Oh my god. My wife has wires. I left her a big pile of wires to untangle. That's her job now. I'm gonna pay her from my own pocket. Their grandmother swears that they will never go live with her aunt and uncle. They're gonna live with her until she dies. Hilariously enough, she dies almost within 2 minutes of saying that. They go to a church to pray, and a candle left by somebody totally burns her to death, and she dies suddenly. Oh, my god, I almost forgot the visions. The most important thing about this movie is Mark's visions. He continually has them. Everything goes white, and he sees a figure of a man with a mustache and a cane. He also has hold on, I can't concentrate.
Sorry, I'm leaving the roll on it.
Okay. Mark is a little sucks a bunch of and his sister licks it up, so you. Wait.
Wow.
Outtakes.
Outtakes.
Way out. Way out. The farthest outtake ever. Mark has visions. The first vision he sees is in the cemetery. Everything goes white, and he sees a man with a mustache and a cape and a cane, a mysterious woman, and there's a severed arm, like a skeletal arm on the ground, and this weird-looking greyhound kind of a dog comes up and starts chewing on it. The music's very ethereal and light, but it's supposed to be a very menacing scene. And of course, his sister's used to this. He's had visions of this character before, and this stuff just keeps happening where he keeps seeing these visions, and people get killed in these visions. For instance, when they go to live with, after their grandmother dies, they go and live with the aunt and uncle in the boarding house, and the aunt, she ends up in one of his visions getting stabbed by the man with his cane. He has like a sword kind of cane he's stabbing her with. And she actually dies. And she warns Mark, beware the Pentecost, and the devil's coming, or something along those lines. She dies, and then shortly after that, the uncle commits suicide.
After Mark hears some very interesting conversation.
Yes. Well, God, this plot. I keep uncovering shit about this plot. Another reason that they went to this house is supposedly there was a well underneath the house that cured people when they used its waters. And the Father Stefani is trying to convince Mark to go there and use the waters to heal his blindness. The aunt dies. What was the conversation they overheard?
He hears his Uncle Martin talking with someone about how at a certain point only Mark and Christine need to be the only ones living in the house. And he comes on up the stairs, and Christine comes up behind him, and blammo, Tom Filet just hangs himself right there, and Mark's like, what just happened? What happened?
Yeah.
And it's out of nowhere, and it's really the first moment that comes out of nowhere in a movie that's got another moment that comes out of nowhere.
Yeah. Stuff happens like lightning fast, and it's shocking. Great. They open up the boarding house, and of course, who's their first customer but the man from Mark's visions? named Dan, played by Yorgo Voyagis, a very sinister sounding name.
If I ever heard one.
That's right. He comes in and immediately, Mark cannot stand him. Mark just is utterly freaked out that this guy is even anywhere near them. Because he, even though he can't see him, he just knows that this is this evil character from his visions. One vision he has is Dan and his sister having some kind of heavenly-looking sexual moment, and it doesn't get very graphic, right. But you know they kiss, and you wonder what's going to happen, and before it gets gets too racy, the vision's over. And after a few more scares and just creepy things, the little girl, Mark makes friends with a little girl named Vicky. The way they show her is really, really freaking cool. They have Mark being scared by something, and he's backing up against the window, and you just see, if you miss it, you might even miss it, there's a girl watching him from the corner of the building in another window. You just see just a little bit of her profile watching him. It's really cool. They make friends, and they get to be friends for like a day, before Mark has a vision of Dan murdering her. And, of course, Vicky disappears and reappears, and it's just, all this stuff keeps happening to make Mark look crazy.
Right.
So, Dan decides to leave. Christine's very upset about it, mainly because she's pregnant somehow. She claims to Father Stefani that she never had sex, but nobody believes her. Everyone just assumes that she's just lying or crazy. Well, how do you make money in Venice? You turn your boarding house into a brothel.
Well, that's how I made all my money in Venice.
Heck yeah. Venice Beach. Yeah. Now they're running a brothel, and the baby's coming, and Giorgio, who I almost forgot completely to mention, Giorgio is played by Fabio Gama. He is Christine's sort of not fiance guy. He's an older guy. He's an artist who works in metalworks for some reason, which will come in very important later.
Very important.
He is just kind of a layabout and a loser who's just looking for a comfortable life. He's been trying to get Christine to marry him this whole time. They finally get married, and he just immediately starts drinking and making his art and sleeping with all the prostitutes in the house. Just a really sleazy situation.
Yeah.
The baby's born, and more visions ensue. Mark is convinced the child is the Antichrist, because, of course, he believes Dan is the devil. Too many coincidences come up, and Giorgio ends up believing him. In a very, very freaky scene, Mark goes down to the well, which is under the house. It's supposed to cure his blindness. He opens up the well, and rats and snakes come pouring out of it, which he can't see because he's blind, and so he keeps just applying this dirty, filthy water to his eyes, hoping that it'll cure him. Giorgio takes on the role of writing, is it a prophecy he's writing? What is he writing? What do you call that?
The gospel.
Yes,
the gospel.
The gospel according to Giorgio. I've always wanted to read that one.
Uh-huh.
And he starts going crazy and drinking, and finally Mark has a vision of Giorgio getting killed, and the gospel getting burned by one of the prostitutes. But I don't want to go too far without spoiling things.
Right.
Did I miss any major points there? Or was that's pretty much leading up to near the end, right?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
This movie has some genuine surprises I don't want to ruin for people.
Right.
This movie's I almost said fart. This movie's hard to find, so, well, not impossible, but moderately difficult to locate. Should we do a warn of spoilers now, or do you want to do spoilers after? There's not really much to spoil with Whisper in the Dark. It's so weird.
No, there's not. Let's just go ahead and spoil this now, and we can talk about all the little parts.
All right, so if you're hip to this movie and you really want to see it, you can find it. you don't want it ruined, then go ahead and skip this next bit. Or, come back later after you've seen it. So, part of Giorgio's gospel, I remember it. I don't know why I can't remember that word. Part of his gospel is a warning to Mark that he must love the child. This child that has been born into the world, Satan's kid. He keeps telling him to love it and, not to let the hate in his heart take him over.
Right.
Well, after he witnesses Giorgio getting murdered, he just loses his shit. And during a party, the child's first birthday party, I think, they are all drunk, and Mark wants to hold the baby. And I'm like, sure, blind kid, hold the baby. The mother, Christine, she passes out, and he goes for a walk with the kid and takes it to Giorgio's studio, where, in the most shocking frickin' moment I've seen in years, he throws the baby across the room and impales it on one of Giorgio's sculptures that has, like, these 12 or 14-inch nails sticking all over the place. And the baby just hits the nails and just, thump, and just starts bleeding. Yeah, just splat, just dead baby. It's mind-blowing. And it
really is.
This movie is so freaking morbid and death-obsessed, but it doesn't, other than his uncle hanging himself. Oh, and Father Stefani's fate. Father Stefani doesn't make out so good. Other than that, you don't expect this at all.
Not at all.
You expect the child to be fine and whatever, a la, Rosemary's Baby, where everything's hunky-dory. But no, he kills the fucking kid. And of course, it turns out that he should not have done that he should have listened to Giorgio and squashed the hate in his heart, because by killing the kid, he has fulfilled the prophecy. The prophecy being the child of Satan wants to emulate Christ's path, which is a immaculate conception and then getting killed and resurrecting. So he played into this prophecy, and the next time we see the child with Christine, the kid, the baby's fine. It is resurrected. It's come back from the dead, and now it's going to rule the world as the son of Satan. But Mark gets to see...
Congratulations.
What was that?
I said congratulations.
Yay.
Mark.
Yeah, nice going, Mark Hole. He does get his vision back. He gets to see, so he gets to watch the end of the world.
Yeah. That's
the end of the spoilers. I highly recommend you go find this movie immediately. What is your take on Damned in Venice, Mr. Brad?
I love it, first of all. I think it's a great film. It calls forward to like 2 or 3 of Fulci's movies that I can think of, where you've got the little girl, you've got the young girl with holding the dog by the leash.
Yep. And
it looks a lot like The Girl in the Beyond. It's reminiscent of that a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
You've got when Dan is killing people with his cane. It is a pretty good effect because you don't actually see anything pierce the skin. It's like he pokes the cane and all this blood starts rushing out. And it looks kind of like when Dagmar Lysander gets killed in House by the Cemetery. The one thing that I love about this film is that it's like you said, whenever he gets a vision that someone's is going to die, they immediately die. Like, he does not pussyfoot around. It's not like you're totally on Mark's side, because it's not like, well, this could be a coincidence. It's like, I just had a vision, so-and-so is going to die, then so-and-so dies. I really like Giorgio in this because he's pretty much a ne'er-do-well, but you can tell that he does care about Mark and his sister Christine. But it's just like, as soon as he's convinced that Mark is telling the truth, he just kind of resigns himself. I think it's funny, like you said, he writes the gospel. Well, the word gospel means the good news, and there's no good news to be had here at all.
Yeah.
Olga Carlatos plays 3 different roles. She plays Aunt Madeline, she plays Vicky's mother, she plays the midwife on the ship, and she shows up at the end. we recently watched The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, and one of my favorite things to do, and I know other people do this too, is try to figure out when who is infected during the film. And one of the things here that it seems like that everybody is in on this. It seems like at a certain point, Christine knows what's going on. It's never made known verbally, but obviously the priest is in on it.
Yeah.
Because he kind of guides things a certain way. When the baby is... Something happens to the baby on the ferry, and I can't remember what it is. Is he choking?
Giorgio pretends that the baby's choking so that he can convince Father Stefani to baptize him just in case the baby dies.
Right. And the Father Stefani puts it off as long as he can and finally does it, and then is immediately thrown off the boat and gets his head chopped off. And Giorgio's like, see, he who baptizes him shall be beheaded. That's why he didn't want to do it. I mean, it's just so, like, it's not drawn out, and sometimes I like things that are slow burns, but this is just a very cause and effect film. One thing that I really do enjoy, back when I first started getting into Italian horror from the 70s, I had a certain idea of what I wanted it to be, and it was like Shock, Mario Bava's Shock. And then when I watched this, I'm like, this is one of my ideals for Italian horror. It's cheaply made, but since they're in Venice, you didn't have to spend a lot of money, on sets.
Right.
It's got a sense of dread that permeates from the opening shot, and it almost seems like they're all doomed. When they open up and they're going down an alleyway, cobblestones, and Mark hears somebody behind them, it's like from that moment, and it really is, it just jumps into it. It's reminiscent to me of a film, what's the name of the film? I'm drawing a blank. It's got Catherine Deneuve in it. It's an Italian horror film where the guy goes and lives with his aunt and uncle in the house.
I got this one. Lost Soul.
Lost Soul, thank you. It's reminiscent of that movie a little bit to me. It's one of those later 70s films when, the Gothic had died out, the Giallo had all but wrapped up. Crime thrillers were big still, but it was kind of the period between Deep Red and Zombie, the 4 years there, probably can be almost like seem like a no man's land for Italian horror, and it's really not. You just have to dig for the films.
Oh, definitely.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, especially with the next film we're going to talk about.
Exactly. The kid, Reno, how do you say his last name?
I say Sestier.
Sestier. He was actually in quite a few excellent Italian horror films. His first role was in A Bay of Blood. He was uncredited. He was the little boy with Nicoletta Elmi.
Nice.
At the you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, I do.
He's the kid in Il Diavolo nel Cervello, Devil in the Brain, which you and I talked about, and that was, I believe, that was one of your highlights of a Giallo meltdown.
Oh yeah,
and it is an excellent Giallo.
I can't,
and it's crazy.
I can't recommend Devil in the Brain enough. That movie needs a proper release to the world.
It really does. He's the kid in that, which is crazy because I watched this. I remember telling you, hey, that kid, he was the kid in Devil in the Brain. But he grew up, that was only 5 years in between the two films. 6. And he really grew up because he's just a kid. He's in Challenge to White Fang. And then he's in Torso. He's Gianni, the little kid.
In the flashback.
Exactly.
Wow.
So, actually, this kid was in a lot of really good films. He was in one of Bava's best, one of Martino's best. He was in Il Diavolo nel Cervello. He was in a Fulci film. He was in this. So, actually, he had a pretty good career. But no, I really love this film. I remember I came across it. I don't think you and I had actually discussed it, and I'm like, I just watched Damned in Venice, and it was awesome. And you're like, oh, I'm so glad you said that, because it is awesome. And I'm like, yeah, it's got the vibe throughout. And, it's not really that depressing, really, which is strange to me. I don't know if you feel the same way.
It doesn't depress me. It scares the shit out of me, and it's really unsettling. It really makes me, like, tingly in a bad way. Like, it's, even though I knew it was coming, I was freaked out. Like, this movie, it just freaks me out. It's really, really unsettling.
Well, I told Elizabeth, I said, this is the kind of film that if I'd seen it as a kid, I would have spent until now probably trying to figure out what it was, and it would have bothered me because The Omen really bothered me when I was a kid, and it's got some of the same, of course it's Americanized, The Omen, but it's got some of the same beats as far as like when Holly Palance jumps off and hangs herself for Damien.
Yeah.
Just imagine that moment right there, and just a film filled with them, just that kind of dread.
Yeah.
The version that I have is a download that has got subtitles. I've heard other people talk about a dubbed version. As far as I know, it does not have any kind of American release, which is a shame because it's really good. And I'm sure... Go ahead.
That is almost true, except for one thing. The vision Mark has of the man with the cape, the woman, and the dog chewing on that, like, skeletal arm on the steps, I knew that scene. When I saw this movie, it opened up a forgotten memory. I knew that scene. And I was like, man, this must have played on cable somewhere. This must have played on cable. I know this shit. I have seen this part. What happened was, my video store had the American VHS of this film. On the cover, they didn't know what the fuck to put on the cover, so they did a promotional still of the man in the cape, the woman, the dog chewing on the skeletal arm. That's the cover of the VHS.
Wow.
Yeah, so I had seen that, and it really intrigued me as a kid, but I was kind of too young to rent horror movies. So I just remember that shot.
Wow.
And so when Mark had his vision, it totally hit me. Like, I've seen this before. And it wasn't until really recently that I realized I had never seen the movie. I found a little tiny screenshot. Not a screenshot. A tiny little JPEG on frickin' Google of the VHS. And it's that promotional shot. So yeah, this movie has been with me for a long time, dude.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. And so yeah, it did have that English dub somewhere. I haven't found it. I would love to find the tape of this somewhere. That'd be so cool, just to see if it was any different.
I'm sure that it probably gets lumped in with like a Rosemary's Baby or an Omen rip-off, but it's really a lot more than that.
Yeah, this is way beyond. I mean, I'm an Omen fan, but this is just like, holy shit, this is some other beast. The score by Pino Donaggio is unreal, man. Like, when you asked me what these two movies had in common, and I said Pino Donaggio, because I couldn't think of anything else. I'd forgotten that he had done this score, because this is as unlike any of his other scores that I can think of. This has a lot of experimental reverse sound effects. This has weird synthesizer, like almost like video game explosion noises, and just weird passages of really eerie frickin' music that I love. And it's so different to me from his other stuff that I just didn't even think it was him.
Yeah, no, it's very much different. And as we'll talk about in the next film, we'll talk about the score there.
The special effects, the makeup, dude named Germano Natali worked on The Beyond, Inferno, Contraband, Deep Red, Suspiria.
Wow.
Yeah, a bunch of cool shit. Oh, and Star Crash. Hey,
Star Crash.
Everybody worked on Star Crash, man.
I was actually an extra on Star Crash.
Me too. I'm trying to think. Oh my god, like you're saying, Olga Karlatos. I love Olga Karlatos in this movie. Just her playing 3 or 4 roles is just so perfect. Her eye does not get gouged out like in Zombie, but whatever.
Exactly.
I don't know if I have anything else to say about this movie other than I highly recommend you track it down. I
highly recommend it as well.
This is so damn good. Let's take a break, and we'll come back and we'll talk about a similarly different, kind of not the same at all film.
I'm ready.
I'm ready too. It's called A Whisper in the Dark, and we'll be right back to talk about it. We are back, and the next film, A Whisper in the Dark, Un susurro nel buio de la testa mila guga la 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 la. I may have added something to that.
Maybe.
The plot from the IMDb'sness is Martino is a young child who claims to have an invisible friend called Luca. His parents assume it is just a game, but strange things start to happen. ... So, that's what it's about, man. Bye, everybody. Have a good night.
See ya. Easy.
Those fake outs never work. I'm gonna stop doing that. Everyone's like, here's the counter, there's 45 minutes left, you fucking fat fuck. Is that what everyone thinks of me, Brad?
No.
Fuck you, I'm gonna go watch 3 on a meat hook. I don't know. Anyway.
Wow.
What?
Wow.
So, A Whisper in the Dark. I don't think I've even seen 3 on a meat hook. Maybe I have.
I've got it, but I haven't seen it.
I think I watched part of it. Okay, so A Whisper in the Dark. 1976, directed by Marcello Aliprandi. It stars a young man named Alessandro Poggi as Martino. Martino does in fact have an invisible friend named Luca. In fact, he makes sure that Luca has a space, or rather a place, at the table every morning for breakfast and dinner so that he gets fed. His mother is it Natalie Delon who plays his mother?
Yes, sir.
Her name is Camilla. She and John Philip Law are his parents. Unfortunately, they also have a pair of daughters that are my favorite little girls ever. I cannot tell you enough, I love shitty characters, really horrible, annoying, maybe even ugly characters. I just relate to them, and these 2 little girls,
stop it.
These 2 little trolls are so amazing. If I could give them matching Oscars, or I would give them 1 Oscar and tell them it's for both of them so they'd fight over it. Then I'd make them eat jam.
You would.
They're already eating the jam. They're always eating the jam in the movie. Of course, Martino's parents find it kind of disturbing that he is really, really convinced that this Luca is real. And so they are trying to break him of this imaginary friend, and weird shit starts happening. It seems like if you make Luca angry, bad things will happen. And then they call in a child psychologist, which under normal circumstances would be fine, except this time it's Joseph Cotton. And what did you say? What did you say about this period of Joseph Cotton's career?
You said, "Here comes Joseph Cottontail," and I said, "Hopping down the old weirdo trail." He's in his
rape van section of his career.
I love this part of his career. He's in some good horror films. He's in some not so good horror films, but he makes like he is the best part about the hearse. Him being in it.
Oh man,
it is the only good part of the hearse. But he's in Barren Blood, of course. He's in Dr. Phibes. I mean, I do, and of course, Citizen Kane, The Third Man, Shadow of a Doubt. I mean, he's just a great actor.
Yeah.
And I, for one, it's like, you know, I'm sure it was probably a disappointment to him to go do Z-grade Italian horror films, probably in his mind, compared to what he'd been doing, but I love it.
But I'm
so excited when that old American actor shows up.
He just nails it. Like, he's really unsettlingly weird in this movie.
He certainly is.
Part of it is his goatee. The other part of it is his makeup. I mean, he is wearing like 2 inches of makeup in this movie. It is really disturbing. And he's kind of part magician, and he's tricking the children with magic tricks and all this shit. And he's trying to get to the bottom of what's going on with Martino. It's revealed that Camilla had a stillborn child. The child died at 6 months. You know, inside her. It wasn't born. Stillborn. I fucking said that. Anyway, they were planning to name the child Luca if it was a boy, but they never told anybody about it. It was very strange.
Very.
So aside from a few like innocent, weird things happening, John Philip Law, his character almost dies. And when they go to Venice, of course, he tries to take him to a doctor to get checked out, and of course, you don't fuck with Luca, or he'll make you fall into the disgusting Venetian waters, and you nearly die. So he immediately decides, I don't need to take him to see that psychologist. We'll have him come to us, and that's where Joseph Cotton's character comes in. The professor likes his vodka.
He certainly does.
And he likes it brought to him in his bath. Not before he's in the bath. Oh no, he wants it in the bath. So this deranged old bastard wants the poor maid to bring him vodka, and she has to look at his soggy dong. Well, that's implied. We don't get to see it. I was disappointed. I know he was disappointed. There's a little servant's bell that hangs down by the bathtub. And of course, it's rigged to kill him. Somebody's tampered with it, and he dies.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Luca? Did Luca do it?
Was it Luca, master electrician?
Just some more crazy shit happens, and things just keep happening, and it's blamed on Luca, and the movie has a very obtuse ending, and that's pretty much it. I don't know what else to say. I mean, there's some hot ladies in it. Lucretia Love is in it as Camilla's friend Susan, who's having an affair with John Philip Law. A lovely woman named Olga Becerra plays Francois the maid. I don't know. What's your take on this movie, dude?
Well, it is a slow burn, whereas the other one is atmospheric and blam, blam, blam. This one is in absolutely no hurry. This is one I got from Netflix, just, by getting a bunch of the, just going through and picking up whatever Italian horror I could find. It's a very impressive film from a standpoint of, it's almost like a family horror film because there's so much going on, the inner workings of this family. It's a beautiful house that it's shot in. John Philip Law is probably one of the more unconcerned fathers that I've seen. he just doesn't seem to be totally invested. Maybe like, he was out to have a good time and then had all these children. Like you said, the little girls are really funny. because of their pranks and whatnot, Luca says they're not going to be able to go to a party. And they're like, we don't even believe in Luca. And then it pours the rain, and then they get in the car and have a flat tire, and just all these mishaps when anybody crosses Luca. And, you know, there are things that happen during the film, like the balloon that floats up to the mother. They're definitely, it's not in anybody's mind. These aren't coincidences. This is actually happening. Joseph Cotton, like you said, very bizarre portrayal he has. They have a masquerade ball party for the children, and he dresses up as a magician with a mask and does a magic routine, and it's all rather bizarre. I don't think this film is for everyone. I think probably there'd be some folks that would find it boring. If you get into it and give it a chance, I think it's a really good Italian horror film. It gets compared a lot to like The Turn of the Screw.
Oh yeah, there you go.
It's not gory. It's not in your face. It's just a very low key ghost film.
Yeah, it really stretches it at 100 minutes.
It really does.
Even I'm like, I'm not saying shave 5 minutes out of it, but I felt the 100 minutes, you know?
No, yeah, you do.
That party scene you mentioned is my favorite sequence in the movie. It is, without a doubt, one of the eeriest and most, like, off-putting frickin' sequences. There's just, like, you see all these couples dancing, and confetti's falling, and it's this grand ballroom, and then you realize they're children. And it's just really odd, like the way it all unfolds.
Very odd.
The scene with the balloon, like you mentioned, is really haunting. They play a kissing game where somebody gets blindfolded and spun around, and then people come up and kiss them. They have to guess who it is. And, of course, they blindfold the mother, and they spin her around, and they decide to play a joke on her and not let anyone go up and kiss her. So, of course, Luca, the ghost, steps up and kisses her, but you can't see anything. That's another thing about this movie. You never see shit. You don't see anything that can't be explained. Every supernatural event, for the most part, can be explained away. So it also just leaves it open-ended completely. And the ending is really, really subtle. I mean, it's so subtle it feels like the movie just stops.
Yeah, I mean...
Is it resolved?
The movie ends... The movie ends where it begins, for the most part.
Yep.
At the table, at the family dinner table, or breakfast table. You know, and I really like that... what's the word I'm looking for? It comes full circle.
Yeah. It's circular.
It is.
Pino Donaggio does another great score, as different from the other film we just talked about. This is very lush, very pretty music. Not as memorable, I don't think. The music doesn't really stand out to me. I mean, I like it, but it's not... I'm not going to run out and buy the soundtrack or anything. Oh yeah, I tried to run out and buy the soundtrack for Damned in Venice. Did I ever tell you about this?
No.
Okay, right when I found Damned in Venice, when I was searching for a DVD of it, I found out that Amazon had the soundtrack from Damned in Venice. Someone had recorded the record, burned it to MP3s, and was selling it on Amazon. I don't know if they were licensed or what the hell happened. So I spend my $7.99, $9.99, whatever the fuck for the MP3 album, and someone didn't plug in the record player correctly. And there's all this like chord jiggling sounds, and the left channel kept cutting out and going back in.
Oh shit.
And then later the right channel would go out, and there was all these like just distracting, horrible sounds all over it. And I complained.
Wow. Like
you do.
Uh-huh.
And they said, "Oh, don't worry, we re-upped, it's all fixed now, go for it." It was the same exact thing. They just deleted the files and re-uploaded them. The files were the fucked up part, so of course it was retarded. I got my money back. And I got a free copy of it, but it's unlistenable. Wow. It's like, man, the soundtrack isn't this experimental, you know?
Right.
Anyway, back to this movie. Yeah, I recommend this only for folks who are really, really into Italian horror and don't mind slow burns, like you were saying. I mean, this is one of the slowest burns. I don't consider this boring. Mm-hmm. No. But man, it makes you work for it. It reminds me of The Cursed Medallion.
Ooh.
The one with Nicoletta Elmi. That's really good. Another slow burn.
That's a really good movie.
But there's just enough weirdness with this that you should be entertained, I think. This came out on the ill-fated No Shame label. I think everything but this film is out of print. Like, No Shame stuff is gone, but I think on Amazon you can still get Whisper in the Dark because nobody likes it.
Yeah.
I meant to read. Heck, it comes with a really nice, 2-page booklet. I forgot to read it before the show because that's the kind of researcher I am.
Right. Bringing it all.
Yeah. I'm bringing my A game or my gay game, whatever. What else to say about this movie? Oh, the director, Marcello Aliprandi, did a movie that I managed to find on YouTube, if you can still find it. It's called Smiling Maniacs. From 1975, starring Franco Nero and Fernando Rey and Umberto Orsini and Murad Danad, Giovanna Benedetto, other people. Anyway, it's a crime thriller. I know it involves Franco Nero slapping the shit out of someone, so that's worth it right there. But yeah, it's on YouTube under the title Smiling Maniacs, and it has the 1975 date dubbed in English, so go watch it while it's still up there. Who knows what's going to be on YouTube these days.
Now, how did you first come across this?
Oh, I was buying up everything that sounded even remotely interesting on the No Shame label. I noticed that this is one of those movies that had terrible, terrible reviews. Everybody was dogging it, and it was also the cheapest of No Shame's films. So I went for it. I think I paid, maybe with shipping, like $8 for this movie, maybe less.
Wow. It's
got
definitely
it.
worth $8.
I got it and I loved it. I watched it for the first time during the Spirit of 76 movie-thon.
Maybe that's why I watched it.
Yeah, I remember praising it quite a bit in the Spirit of 76, or at least enjoying it enough to, not talk shit about it. I kind of half recommend this. I mean, it's not going to be for everybody. Like Damned in Venice, I want everybody to see that one. I wish that was on DVD.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah. Do you have any final thoughts on this one?
No, like I said, it's a slow burn. It's definitely worth your time, but it may not be quite for everyone.
Yeah. It's got the gothic thing to a T. I mean, it's almost like you're saying somebody said it was like Turn of the Screw. It's definitely that kind of gothic. I mean, nightgowns flowing in a foggy forest and running through an old, decrepit courtyard, and the house that they live in is a character too. I mean, it's beautiful. So there you go. That's
heck yeah.
Those are our movies for this week. We're almost accidentally a weekly show, dude. I'm not going to put these episodes out weekly, but we're recording weekly.
Exactly.
Do you have a question time?
I do indeed. It's a 2-part question time.
I'm ready.
The first part is somewhat topical. Right. Have you seen The Conjuring?
Yes, Your Honor. I have seen The Conjuring.
What did you think of it?
I loved it. I would say easily one of the best possession / haunted house movies I've ever seen in theaters. I want to see how it holds up under multiple viewings, but at this point, I loved it. I really did.
I saw it and loved it, and I'm going back tomorrow to see it again.
Let me tell you, folks at home, I had to ask Brad to calm down. He told me he was going to go see it Friday night, and then Saturday, he wanted to talk about it, so I called him. And I had to ask him to relax because he was like a little kid flipping out over a movie. Like, I haven't seen this much enthusiasm since, I don't know, fucking Wayne's World, like with my friends who were 13 and 12 and I, having our minds just totally exploded with comedy. But yes, this was important and it's making a lot of money, which is awesome.
Yes.
It's a $20 million movie, and it's made triple that back already, so that's awesome.
Uh-huh. I was so excited that I emailed Rod of the Nashi cast because I had seen Dead Silence and really enjoyed it, and then kind of forgot about it until I found his review of Dead Silence, and he liked it, and I'm like, oh yeah, I really like that movie. So then when Insidious came out, I'm like, well, that's the same guy, and of course I loved Insidious. I think The Conjuring is better than Insidious.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And that's coming from someone that really enjoyed The Conjuring.
Yeah.
So I think that The Conjuring is an instant classic. So that leads me to the real part of Question Time, which is,
yep.
I think that there's a lot of consensus on what are classic horror films, all the way up until, like, say, the mid-'80s. The Exorcist is a classic, The Omen, Rosemary's Baby, you've got Halloween, Romero's Dead films, The Reanimator. But after about 1985, I think it gets a little sketchy as to what people would consider classics.
Right.
And I was wondering if you could just toss out a few from, say, 85 up until now, just whatever, that you think, deserve to be in, like, the Pantheon with, say, Dawn of the Dead,
Okay.
Things like that.
Oh, man, that's not too bad. I like that. That's a good question. Let me think. First title popped into my mind immediately was Reanimator.
Nice.
That movie is just one of my favorites. Post 85.
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be,
anything after the big stuff of the early 80s, like,
right?
Beyond The Thing,
right?
Like, Return of the Living Dead. They Live.
Ooh. It's tricky because you want to say things that you think that there would be consensus for, because I could very easily say House of the Devil, but I know a lot of people didn't like that. And you want to pick something consensus because, like Dawn of the Dead is pretty much universally loved.
Right.
Blair
Witch Project.
Right.
I would say. I mean, even as divisive as that movie is, you'll be surprised. The fans of that movie come out of the woodwork. Wishmaster 2, obviously. Duh.
Wishmaster 2, obviously.
No. Actual classics. Scream.
Scream is definitely there.
I think I know people disagree about this. In fact, I've heard people actually complaining this is a shitty movie, but I think they're fucking idiots. In the Mouth of Madness, I think, should be reevaluated.
Thank you. That freaked me out at the theater.
I was terrified. I was utterly, and I was totally enthralled because of all the H.P. Lovecraft goodness. Because that was the first time I'd seen an H.P. Lovecraft inspired film in theaters, where it wasn't Lovecraft per se, but he was all over that movie.
Yeah.
Sticking with Sam Neill, Event Horizon.
Thank you.
Just Just like trying to think.
Is there anything? I mean, you've not hit anything in the from 2000
Yeah,
on.
I'm trying to like. I'm trying to think of stuff in the Millennium. House of the Devil is that. I mean, that's such a left field movie. Nobody expected that when that came out. That's just fucking awesome. I think Dead Silence is going to be reevaluated years from now.
I love Dead Silence.
I avoided that movie like the plague until you recommended it, and I watched it, and I was like, man, what a forehead slapper. I should have fucking watched this in theaters. I loved it.
Let me ask you as a side.
Here's one.
Let me ask you.
I got one.
Okay.
The Abandoned.
The Abandoned. Very excellent choice.
Because nobody gives a triple rat fuck about that movie, and they need to. That movie's great.
No one's even heard of it. That's one that I did see independent of you, and you were kind of surprised that I had seen it.
Yeah.
I remember.
Well, not a lot of people gave it the time of day, and fuck, man, I was blessed. I saw it in theaters, so I'm still reeling from that experience. Oh, duh. I mean, frickin', I thought of it, then I forgot it. Oh, jeez. Pan's Labyrinth.
Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah, that's gonna be... I mean, that movie's brutal, man.
There's one that I know that you really like that I think you're leaving out, and that would be High Tension.
Oh, yeah. Whew. The savior of splatter movies. The savior of slashers, really. Devil's Backbone.
Devil's Backbone, excellent. I would put myself, and this is probably even more divisive than House of the Devil, but that would be The Innkeepers.
Nice. That's a great movie.
I love The Innkeepers.
Yeah, that's a good one. Oh, hey,
and
dude.
James Wan, yeah.
Obviously, Lords of Salem.
Lords of Salem.
Crickets.
Oh, I loved Lords of Salem.
Crickets.
Yeah. That is actually making its, Lords of Salem is making its Blu-ray debut in September.
I'll be there.
And so will I. And we'll be the only two that own it.
Dude, I can't wait for our Lords of Salem episode, man. We'll get burned at the stake.
Probably.
But even better is going to be our Halloween and Halloween 2 episodes.
Yes. I just don't understand the vitriol. I know we've talked about this, and we will talk about it again.
If Rob Zombie had not been hired to do the Halloween reboot...
Yeah, you're right.
Everybody would still kind of like him. People have always kind of liked Rob Zombie. There's people that hate him, and there are people that thought he was a genius. But, man, when he did that Halloween, it was over. The hipsters were done. Yeah. They're still pissed off at him.
Yeah, they are. You're right.
Yep. Not me.
Let me ask you this. No, not me at all. Do you see any Bava in the work of James Wan?
I think so. I'm not sure if I see more Argento than Bava. I'm not really sure. I'll keep that in mind.
Old lady.
What's that?
The old lady in Dead Silence and Insidious, I think, are both pretty reminiscent of the drop of water.
Oh man, yeah. That's a good point.
And
I like that.
There's something in The Conjuring that I don't want to spoil for everybody, but there's something in The Conjuring that I think is very reminiscent of a certain film that Bava did in 1966.
I'll cut it out. What was it?
The ball in the basement. Anytime I see a ball in a horror film, I think
yeah. Freaking.
I know that's probably kind of broad.
Yeah.
But I just, Insidious was very colorful, and when I see colorful horror films, I don't think Argento first. I always think Bava first.
Yeah.
But I can definitely see what you're saying about Argento. I cannot describe how excited I am to see A, The Conjuring again, and B, to see Insidious 2 when it comes out.
Yeah.
Because if he's improved, I think even in Saw, if Saw had not been a series, people like us would talk about Saw like just a fantastic one-off film that didn't get its due.
I have issues with it.
I think.
I will never love that movie. I will never embrace Saw. It has some of the worst editing that I've ever seen. Like it has something is my biggest pet peeve in late 90s, early millennial horror. And that's that fast forward editing shit. That fucking Marilyn Manson music video bullshit where they film something for 30 minutes and then they speed it up to make it look scary and remove frames, and it just is the most nauseating bullshit.
I think the fact that it pulls a great trick on the audience.
Yeah. No, story-wise, yeah, and for what they did on a low budget, the seams are showing with the budget. I mean, that car chase when Danny Glover's chasing the photographer, that is one of the funniest. Or is he? He's chasing somebody. Anyway, it's the funniest shit I've ever seen. They're clearly in a garage with the lights of the cars on and a smoke machine. They're pretending to drive.
Right.
That is the funniest thing I've ever seen, but I can forgive that. What I can't forgive is just resisting to do things right. Like, it's like, look, you have a girl in a chair. You have a contraption on her head that's going to rip off her jaw. It's scary. Chill. Just chill out. Don't fuck it up. And they fuck it up. They completely ruin that scene. The guy in the pig mask creeping around. Let him creep around. It's unsettling. Let it happen. Oh, no. Gotta edit it to make it scary. It's like, oh, fuck you. So yeah,
I see where you're coming from, but also it's like you said, that was kind of the norm though at that time. So
yeah, I know.
I think maybe he was somewhat a prisoner of, I don't know what the fad was at the time. Right. But what I was getting at is that I think he's gotten better. Like with Saw, I think there's a lot of promise.
Yeah.
Dead Silence, I really enjoyed it. Thought it was completely overlooked. Insidious, I know that you had some problems that I can even, agree with. But I thought it was scary. And then I saw The Conjuring, and it was a sold out show. People got up and left. I thought it was good.
Yeah. I agree with you completely. He's progressed. I'm just saying why I can't let Saw go. I will never give Saw a pass because of those things that's wrong with it.
No, I understand.
But then Dead Silence is a vast improvement. That's why I never watched Dead Silence, because it was from the guy who did Saw.
Right.
And then, Insidious was coming out, and so I checked out Dead Silence on your recommend. And then Insidious was great. I just had two things that I was like, that took me out of the movie. Right. There's nothing in The Conjuring that takes me out of the movie. I mean, I have one mild complaint about it, but it's not even anything substantial. It wasn't enough to bother me. So I could see how people could criticize it, but it's just a great movie. I mean, I'm not going to say it's my favorite film of the year or my favorite film in the last 10 years or anything, or 5 years, but I really loved it.
It's like I've told my friends that are coming up, I'm like, it's not really that he does anything new. It's just that what he does it so well in this film.
Yeah.
And people throw around. It's like the Amityville Horror, and that's supposed to be some sort of badge of honor. And I'm not a big Amityville Horror fan.
Well, Amityville Horror was a big success in a slump of a season, I think, and it stole the money from a lot of other movies because people were in the mood for that kind of a movie. And right now, because
it's kind of similar,
because Hollywood is taking a dump right now, and Hollywood can only make $200 million movies that nobody wants to see. Of course, a horror movie is going to make some money.
Mm-hmm.
And because everyone needs a break from other stuff, you know, it's just the right time for a fun little sleeper horror movie to come out and, you know, kick some ass. But I think that, like, when you look back on Amityville Horror, it's a flawed movie. I mean, it's like, it has its effective moments. It did a few things that really hadn't been done before, but I mean, it's bad. It's a bad movie.
I prefer some, like the second one even to the first one.
Yeah, I prefer the second one. I kind of dig the remake that they did way back. They also kind of fucked that up, but I liked it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just something I have to say about Amityville Horror whenever it comes up. And this is sort of a spoiler, but not really. I hope everyone's seen it by now. He goes back for the dog. That is my favorite. I would trade the rest of that movie just for that scene when he's like, "Where's the dog? Where's the dog?" And he gets out of that van. He gets out of safety and runs back into the most horrible place on earth to go get the family dog.
Yep.
Brilliant. Fucking brilliant.
It's good stuff to go back for the dog. I know you would go back for the dog.
I go back and kick the dog in the face.
Why aren't you out here with us, idiot? Well, I think, you know, James Wan is doing the Fast and the Furious 7. And even though I did see the first one back in whenever it came out and have not seen any of them since then, I would watch the one that James Wan did at least once just to see what he did with it. You know?
I predict great things.
I've actually read he's trying to make it like a 70s exploitation film. Now, I don't know how much that'll come through when you are in charge of a franchise that's made a jillion dollars. But, yeah. I mean, I'd watch it once at least just to see.
Yeah. Well, dude, does that wrap us up?
That wraps us up, man.
So
tell the fine folks what's next.
So, we forgot our second anniversary had come and gone. So, our new anniversary is coming up. That's 2 years we've been doing this show. And we're going to do a little crazy, half-assed second anniversary show. But we're going to talk about a very important film. What film is that, dude?
That film is Lady Frankenstein.
That's right. Rosalba Neary as Lady Frankenstein. I am very, very excited to watch and talk about this one.
It is Rosalba Neary as Sarah Bay as Lady Frankenstein.
Ooh, it's got levels. Levels, y'all.
Levels.
So thanks for listening, and we'll be back with episode 37 and our second anniversary, and of course, most importantly, Lady Frankenstein. Later.
Later.
But what? We're going to have Lady Frankenstein as a guest on the show. I'll go get a hooker and pay her. Like, I'm Lady Frankenstein. You guys want me to take my teeth out? Hey, folks. Thanks for listening. If you want to contact the show, it's doomedmoviethon@gmail.com. Or if you want to hear our archived episodes, you can go to doomedmoviethon.com and click on the podcast link. Outtakes. Fuck. What the fuck? I completely forgot about Mark's visions. Fuck. Okay.
Start over if you want to. I don't care.
Shit on a cock and a dick. Fucking brickcock fucking pussy willow dickweeds.
Hello, my name is Rod Barnett,
I'm Troy Gwynn.
and we are your genial co-hosts for NashyCast, the podcast about the films of Paul Naschy. If you don't know who Paul Naschy is, you need to learn.
Spanish horror icon, writer, director, actor, makeup artist.
He is all of these things and more. Paul Naschy, one of the greatest genre filmmakers of all time. Do titles like Horror Rises from the Tomb,
Vengeance of the Mummy, Werewolf Shadow,
House of Psychotic Women,
Blue Eyes of the Broken Doll.
Mark of the Werewolf make you want to see more?
Watch the film, then come hear our stunning, brilliant commentary.
Stunning and brilliant. That's us. Think that's too egotistical? Think that sounds silly? Think we come off as assholes?
Look, if nothing else, let us tell you this. Blood, nudity, beautiful women, werewolves and turtlenecks.
Nipples. Lots of nipples. Both male and female. Yeah. I don't know if anybody's going to want to listen to us after this, man. Find us at The Bloody Pit of Rod, or
You can subscribe to us on iTunes.
give us a listen. And if we scare you too much, well, maybe Spanish horror is not your thing. I don't know. Your thing, 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 I don't know.